Hello, folks. This is the Ankh-Morpork Historians Guild. It's been a long time, but today we are talking about Maskerade, which is I don't remember what number book it is. It's like 17 or something.
Too many.
Too many.
The man wrote a lot of
Okay.
fucking books.
He wrote quite a few books. But we're talking about Maskerade today, which is one of the Witches books. It's the second to last Witches books, or Witch book, right? Not counting the Tiffany Aching.
Not counting Tiffany Aching, I believe you're correct.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, this is the second last.
And the first one without MacLeod. Um,
Well,
yeah, I had a
Equal
lot
Rights
of
is
mixed
without McGrath.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I guess we should do introductions before I start talking about the book. My name is Mulch. I use they, them pronouns.
My name is Purtis. I also use they, them pronouns.
My name is Chio. I use she, her pronouns.
Cool. Yeah, I had a lot of mixed feelings about this book. Like, I don't know what we finished it like a week ago, and I still don't know what I feel about it. Like, frustration is a big emotion in there, but I did really enjoy listening to it. So I'm not sure. I'm interested in what you guys think of it.
I think that this was an incredibly enjoyable book that had a pretty weak story,
Mhm.
in my opinion.
Interesting. I I thought it was very enjoyable to read. I really like the finale, though I wasn't as crazy about the conclusion itself.
I was
I will
not
say
crazy
that
about
the
the conclusion.
one big thing about it is that I don't find it super memorable. Like,
Mhm.
I just finished it like a couple days ago and it's already trying to slide out of my brain.
Yeah, and for me,
Yeah.
that is indicative of it being lots of good moments without a great story. Like
Yeah.
I just wasn't super impressed by the story. I feel my biggest complaint is that I felt constantly through this book like he had just forgotten Agnes.
Yeah.
Um like I found myself wondering multiple times, I wonder what Agnes is doing. And
Yeah.
then a lot of what she did didn't end up having what you would call a big impact on the story. And at many
Yeah.
points she never really got the payoff of getting her own
Yeah,
agency
that's the big
in
thing.
any way, shape, or
I think
form.
that's the big thing.
Yeah.
She consistently has no agency.
Like, the reason
I
this
will
book is
say, I think another weakness it has is that kind of resembles a bunch of the witches books that happened already. Like it's sort of kind of feels like Weird Sisters mashed together with a little bit of Witches Abroad.
Yeah. I will say that I heavily enjoyed the witches bits a lot more in this because they did not like it wasn't combined with the fact that they are being shitty to Magrat. Like they don't interact with Agnes, so they're not shitty to her. So like they were way more
Does
enjoyable
kind
for
of
me in
make
this
me
book.
wish that it does kind of make me wish that there was a book that was just Nanny Ogg and Granny Weatherwax.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that something that helps me a lot with the witches in this one is that they are materially benefiting almost every person that they encounter. um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and if the mean old ladies are mean old ladies, but they're useful, they help everybody, I can find them much more palatable when they're just like absolutely wrecking people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Um
did really enjoy Nanny Weatherwax and Nanny Ogg and Granny Weatherwax in this.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think they had a ton of phenomenal scenes and some of the best like witches scenes in the series so far. I think this book,
Yeah.
more than most of the other witches books, exemplified what the witches to me should be, which is like these indomitable forces of nature moving through the world at their own leisure. They're like close to gods in their ability. Um and I really like getting to see that. And I think placing that in the context of theater, it only enhances that effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Um,
no, it's
really
really
like the scene with Nanny. Granny Weatherwax in the barn playing Death,
Yes,
the child's soul.
yes, very good
That is
scene.
one of the best Granny Weatherwax scenes, I think.
I think you say that about almost every finale Granny Weatherwax scene, but yeah.
That wasn't a finale.
No, it wasn't, but it
That was
is
like
like I don't
true.
know.
I do really like Granny Weatherwax. She is one of my favorite
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah.
It is in the last
Mm.
we use audiobooks here on this channel. 2 hours of the book, isn't it?
the
Uh,
barn scene?
Mm-hmm.
no, that
No, that was
was
way earlier.
like around the
They're not
beginning
even
of the book, actually.
Yeah, they're not even to Ankh-Morpork at that point.
Oh, I'm mixing it up. Yes, yes, yes. You're right.
The
You're right.
like babies thing, yeah. Um, yeah, I really enjoyed that scene. Like, I also really enjoyed Death in that scene, like pretending he doesn't know how to play the game, so he pretends to lose. Um, that was really funny to me. Oh, I loved that they kept from Equal Rights that Granny Weatherwax knows the seamstresses. I heavily enjoyed the witches scenes in this book, and I also like the reason this book was super memorable to me is because it made me so frustrated. Like Agnes's bits, I had to pause every time someone was shitty to Agnes and take a
Which was
breather,
all of it.
which
Like,
was all of
people
it,
are just horrible.
which meant I took
Um,
so long to listen to this book.
Yeah, I think Perdita should be allowed to kill people. Anytime Perdita
yeah,
was
they should have given Perdita a gun.
anytime Perdita was in the text, I felt like aren't you tired of being nice? Don't you just want to go ape shit?
Yeah,
It's pretty rough.
I
And the thing is that is a lot of what the book and Agnes is about, but it doesn't work at all because there's no real resolution for it in
yeah,
any way.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
it's so well written and so like her frustration and the way it builds up is so emotionally good, and then it just doesn't do anything with it. Like there's no she just has to go home, like, and like become a witch,
Yeah.
even though this whole book she's been saying, I don't want to be a witch. And like and Granny and Nanny aren't shitty to her. I will say that. Like in the finale, like I don't think they were shitty to her, which I was worried about them being. Um and like I think the scream scene was really, really good, but
Isn't
there's just
enough.
no like I need to know what happens to her. Like I'm very invested in her in Perdita, and like we didn't get I didn't feel like we got her ending. And I wish that she had an ending or like she was at some place, instead of just like shit like she's been shit on, she gives up and goes home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's frustrating. And this idea, something that bothers me that comes up with the witches a lot is this idea that like people are destined by their nature to be a witch.
Yeah.
Um it's mentioned like many times throughout these stories, all of the witches stories. And it's really antithetical to what the witches are to say that.
Mhm.
And that's what's something that like really bothers me within the text, right? Like they are these forces of nature who can do essentially whatever they want, but also they were pulled to do this. Like they also have to do this is
Yeah.
frustrating concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
Agnes does
this might
appear
be the
again.
best. Yeah, she's in
Carpe
the vampire one.
Carpe Jugular. So we will see her again. that makes any of us feel any better.
Depends on
Yeah.
how it goes. It depends on what they do with it, like what he does with it.
If I remember correctly, the characters aren't shitty to her, but she also doesn't really like finish the emotional arc that she started in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she also makes
Really
a
like the
small appearance in the Shepherd's Crown, but I might be misremembering.
really like Nanny Og in this. I
Nanny
felt
Og.
like this is the book where Nanny Og had the most chances to shine.
Yeah, Nanny Og was great in this. I realized I was talking through the like money spending scenes about how stressed out it was making me, and I thought it was just like my own money issues. But when Nanny Og went in and like bought something fancy, I was fine with that. It was just when Granny was buying stuff that was fancy, I was so stressed out.
Yeah.
I just didn't want Granny to spend her money.
The thing is, like, again, they're witches. Money is like literally a luxury for them.
Nanny
They
Og
literally do
I
not
mean,
should
yeah,
have
I think
been
the
able.
principle is just that the nanny should have been able to buy her horse.
Yeah, like that's the thing is Nanny should have been on a beach with like 20 like shirtless men
Naked.
and naked.
Fully naked.
Yeah,
Let's not roll back here.
Yeah.
Fully naked.
That is
fully naked.
fair, but like again, if it had been purely up to Nanny Og, she wouldn't have gotten the money at all.
Yeah, but
That's a
it's
weird
so
way of
shitty to,
thinking
like,
about
help.
money.
Yeah, like it's so but like Granny did this for her and then just took it all away for this like harebrained scheme when they could have just talked to fucking what's his name? Walter. Like
Oh yeah, that was
God.
purely spite. Like that was explicitly textually spite.
Yeah, and I hate that.
I don't know, I enjoyed those scenes. I thought they were funny.
I
Plus, I
thought
enjoy it when they sexualize Granny Weatherwax.
Nanny
Oh
or
yeah, that was
Nanny
very
Og or
funny.
Granny Weatherwax? Which one?
Granny
When
Weatherwax,
they
because
yeah,
in like the dessert scene and stuff, that was
Okay.
a great scene. Why the wait, that was so
That
funny.
was so fucking funny. I need Nanny Og's fuck book. This is my
Yeah.
personal mission is to create Nanny
Also-
I think
Og's
it
fuck
might
book.
exist.
Also,
I
the
think
discovery.
Terry Pratchett wrote it as a tie-in.
We need to find it.
I was about to say I need to do it. Well, hold on. Joy
Okay,
of
so-
snacks.
So also the fact that you find out the desserts literally make you horny, like that was so funny.
That
And
might
like
just be when Nanny Og cooks them. To
that's
be
true.
fair, like she is a witch.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But it was extremely funny, and just like Salzella and Mr. Bucket like having to leave, and it was
So funny. So good. The recipes are I think the recipes would work for anybody. I don't think that she's putting extra magic in.
she's just putting some
The right ingredients. She uses too much cinnamon. Or
no,
whatever the fuck she
what's the I can't remember the pill people take for that.
Viagra.
Viagra, yeah, she's putting Viagra in there. Did you find the book?
So there is Nanny Og's cookbook, which contains references to the Joy of Snacks, but specifically says it's toned down the recipes and used round world ingredients.
Yeah.
So
makes
unfortunately,
sense.
Nanny Og's cookbook is not Nanny Og's fuck book, and thus worthless to me.
I like that the title was kind of like the joy of cooking meets the joy of sex.
Yeah. By a
I
Lanker
liked
witch.
Grebo, the horrible little man.
He was
Oh.
very fun in
Big
this
fan
book.
of Grebo.
His like whole chase scene was so fun.
Yeah, God, it was.
I like that it like that it ended with him recognizing Walter and asking him for food, but like still in his human form.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think it ended that way, did it? I thought that was before this chase started. Oh, after the after the
It-
Phantom chase, before the
Before the Grebo disguised as Phantom chase.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about some parts of this book. Let's talk about I fucking hated the fact that very early on in the book, Granny Weatherwax has a small conversation with Walter Plinch and realizes that he knows something, and then proceeds to, for the next 7 hours, not just walk up to Walter Plinch and say, "Hey, what the fuck do you know, man?" Like, it makes it even worse because later in the book, a lot of this is resolved by just talking to Walter Plinch. It felt wildly out of character for Granny Weatherwax to know who had the answer and not just be like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah.
They go on this
Yeah.
whole elaborate thing about faking Granny Weatherwax as a patron of the opera, renting out the theater booth that the ghost uses, all this other shit. And then just like instead of just like asking Walter Plinch. There were many, so this book features Walter Plinch, who has an intellectual disability. And as portrayals go of intellectually disabled people, this was pretty good. And I cannot decide if the way the other characters treat Walter Plinch is a commentary on how people treat intellectually disabled people, or if it was just like what he thought people would do. Like what he just what he would do. I mean, what he thought these characters would do.
Yeah.
And those things are subtly different and importantly different. Which is why I think it really falls apart when Granny Weatherwax, of all people, whose entire talent is looking through people, fully ignores him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pain. It's a pain. So
It
Yeah. And
does
I think
kind of bug me a little that like in his phantom form just like disappears and stops being a thing.
or like, there's so many jokes about masking. This is it's literally masking.
it's
And then
literally
they just make the masking permanent. And that weirded me out a little bit, but like I guess it works.
I mean, kind of. I think that in the end, he's showing kind of both things a little bit.
Yeah.
Like in the last couple of scenes, he is still showing the nature without the mask and some of these other things. I think that it reads much better as just like he is being given the opportunity. Like what I would like to believe he's trying to write is that this man is being given the opportunity to be clever and is doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what he was actually doing, but that's what I'd like to believe.
Yeah. It works that way.
And I did really like the scene where he is just given where Agnes gives him the mask and he puts it on. I did really like that scene regardless of the symbolism, as it was well written.
I kind of hate I kind of something that frustrates me about Walter and Agnes's relationship is that like pivotal scene relies on him trusting her in like a very important way, and then like but like in other parts of the book he treats her like shit, which is frustrating to me that even Walter treats her like shit.
He is a dick to her at the
Yeah.
end of the story.
Yeah, and even like as the Phantom, like the way he talks about her, like at the beginning of like the lessons and stuff. Like,
I can teach you to sing like her, but I can't teach her to look like you, or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. That's exactly the line, I think. Yeah, that was very frustrating to me.
It was very frustrating. I have a lot of complicated feelings about this book. I'm not fucking sure I like it as a total piece. It's frustrating because it falls into one of those problems that is so unique to Terry Pratchett books, which is that like every moment of this is practically so enjoyable and so well written that it's hard to tear away. And at the same time, I feel like this didn't come together. Like so many Terry Pratchett books, it becomes dissonant at some point. He can't pull all the pieces together in a way that feels good. And
Yeah.
at the end, that just leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Mhm. Yeah. And like, yeah, and I think Agnes is central to that. That is really like this should have been her story, and
It
like,
wasn't.
and it wasn't because it's just shitty. It's just what happens to her is shitty. Everyone is shitty to her. The people who, you know, Walter is the good guy of this book,
I
and
mean,
I mean, he's presented that way, and he's still shitty to her. He's or I don't know
again,
if
I
good guy,
thought
but he's he's
the other guy was like less shitty to her, I think.
The other guy.
yeah,
I
the
forgot his
cop
name. The cop, yeah.
Andre.
Andre,
Andre,
yeah.
yeah.
The Cable Street particular guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he's
To be
still not.
fair, he was consistently like, "Hey, it's super fucked up that they're like having you sing for a major part, but you're not starring in this role."
Yeah, and that's so frustrating that they copped out on that at the end. Like, because he was nice to her through this book, and he seemed like a point of like reason in the madness of like everybody being shitty to her. And then like at the end, he cops out on that too. Yeah, I don't know. It was frustrating.
It was very frustrating. Some other points that really bothered me. So much of the early book sets up the idea that this cheesemonger guy is going to do the books and is going to
Yeah,
find out that it's intentionally messy so that money is hidden.
yeah,
And it is a huge disappointment to me that that isn't what happened at all, and that Granny Weatherwax just comes in later and fixes it. Like, there are multiple scenes of him doing the books, and there's a moment where Perdita, we literally transition from him doing the books to maybe like 5 minutes later, Perdita being like, if somebody could just do the books around here and manage the finances, things would be so good. Like, it would work.
yeah.
And then we just like
I
fucking lose that. And the Granny Weatherwax
wish
does it later. It was
I
so
had been the one to
bullshit.
do the books.
What?
Hmm?
I wish Perdita had been the one to do the books.
I mean, that would
Or
have been
to like
okay
fix the
too
books.
if she'd started it early.
Because
But as it was.
I don't think it was set up that the cheesemonger guy was going to do the books.
I mean, he's literally doing the books. We have
Um,
multiple scenes where he's doing the books.
he's trying to do the books, but completely failing to make sense of them. That is like, don't think it is ever set up that he is actually going to solve the books or going to be the one to figure out that they're cooked.
Yeah,
I will tell you,
Um,
having looked at books of fucked up businesses and people and having to undo them and fix them, that's just how it starts. You just don't start knowing. Like from a real world, every single time I've opened one of these and started fixing them, I have felt like this is impossible. How the fuck did they do this? What the fuck is going on? Where's all the goddamn money? But you pick it
yeah,
apart
yeah.
and you get there. And because they had started that process so early in the book, that is really definitely where I thought it was going. I
yeah.
felt
I never thought it was going that way.
I felt
No,
strongly that it was set up to do this.
yeah. I knew it was going to be Granny Weatherwax. Because uh, I it does start like very early on with Granny saying that she's great at numbers, which hasn't been introduced in any other book. But I kind of figured that they were gonna have Granny do it.
To be fair, you're right with that. They did like do the parallel, I guess, with like
I mean, I'm not saying like it was the best
Granny figuring
choice.
out
I'm just
Nanny's
saying that they did
finances, but
up. Yeah.
yeah, I think it would have been way more satisfying if it had been Perdita or Perdita, simply because it would have like given her a role in the story.
I mean,
Yeah.
if she was literally in the end of the book beyond her little tiny role, that would there was a solid point there where I really, near the end of the book, in the last like 3 hours, where I really just kept thinking, what the fuck is Perdita doing right now? Like, it was like, we're running through the fucking rooftops, we're fucking doing all this goddamn shit, we're sneaking through the back hallway of the opera. What the goddamn is Perdita doing? She knows about so much. She lives in this building. Where the fuck is Perdita?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really bothered me.
Yeah.
Did like the villain in this, Salazar?
Salzella.
Salzella?
Saltzella.
Salzella. I like that his thing is that he that he just fucking hates opera. Like, he's not even spending any of this fucking money he's stealing. It's all just hoarded in the basement.
Oh, he's biding his time.
And at the same time, he also, like, lives opera and doesn't know how to not think opera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I figured, so I did like figure out it was him, but only because there was no other options to who it could be. Because like it's not gonna be Walter. You like, and like he's the only like Mr. Bucket doesn't make sense, and he's like the only other character who it makes
I mean,
sense.
they did a, like, red herring thing with Andre.
I guess so, yeah.
I thought pretty
I
early
didn't
on.
really notice that.
I thought pretty early on that it was Salzella, but it was okay to think it was Salzella because it was also like the book is the Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
The book is the Phantom of the Opera. And his like name is a bunch of jokes about him being the Phantom.
Yeah.
So
I haven't read Phantom of the Opera, so I missed all that.
or seen it.
Or seen it. I've not seen it either.
So
I've
like
seen it. I saw like the Gerard Butler movie musical version.
hey, it's a good one.
Well,
The man does
I
a good
am
job.
glad it was him because I do fucking hate him, actually.
Also
Good might be
Um,
overselling. But yeah, he's
What?
a real asshole.
like,
Salazella is a real asshole.
because he's the one who did the line, "Do you think she knows how fat she is?" Right? That was
Yeah.
Salzella, right?
yes.
That moment, I fucking I'm glad he died.
Yeah, he's a dick. He's a total dick. And he's a dick the whole way through. Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that in the realist sense that Terry Pratchett intended this to be like a hardcore mystery.
Yeah.
I don't, it's not like one of his watch books or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say that it is one of the things that kind of weirded me out. It's not a direct problem, but I do think it would have been slightly more interesting if the witches were aware of the metatextual reality, which they are in other books quite consistently.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't, it wouldn't have changed that much. I just think it would have been funny. I think it's just a missed opportunity. It's a power
Yeah.
they have. It's a good power.
Yeah. Again, I really like Salzalla's death scene.
Oh, it's so good.
Salzalla's death scene.
Yeah. The finale is super fun. Like I was also thinking I wish Agnes was part of this, but like it was super fun.
It was. The whole sword fight, the Salzella like kind of losing it, very good. And the death scene, the Mask of Red Death, the Phantom of the Opera mask. So phenomenal. Just absolutely a delight.
Man.
Have having trouble figuring out whether I like it more or less than the Lords and Ladies. Is I think Lords and Ladies has the better plot,
Mhm.
like the better story. It also made me so much more angry.
Yeah.
Like
I think that I personally
probably Lord and Ladies is probably better, but
I think I personally do prefer this book, solely because I found the moment to moment scenes to be just incredibly enjoyable. I feel like
Mhm.
he's really getting into the rhythm of writing Ankh-Morpork in general, his basic concepts
yeah,
in general. Like this is one of the
it is more enjoyable.
one of the early shows of the a force of Ankh-Morpork possessing a human being, which I have always loved as a concept. It's phenomenal. It's everything to me. Um,
Yeah.
and this is a relatively subtle use of it. It's no going postal. Um, and it's a delight. And I think that his descriptions, something that really got me about this one, is that his descriptions and the fun he's having in descriptions, I feel, is amped the fuck up for this book. There were so
Mhm.
many times where a simple description had me laughing or smiling. Um,
Yeah.
and that's what carries this book so much, is that I feel like he's really getting into those grooves. Even if I don't love how the story goes, I don't dislike it um outright. I don't know.
Plus,
Sometimes I do.
you're not like constantly shitting on Magrat.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's really
yeah, I'm really not excited for Carpe Jugulum for this sole reason, if I'm being
Mm.
honest.
To be fair, they are less shitty to Magrat in that one.
That
And like
impresses me.
Magrat's role is also like smaller.
Yes. Yeah. It's just, yeah. It's difficult when Mugrat is with them. It's very
yeah,
difficult.
and it's too bad because it's not Magrette's fault, it's their fault.
Yes, it
But,
is.
like, I'm still glad she's not in this book.
Well, and I mean, let's be honest. The last time Magrat appeared, she spent a lot of time not with them, and it was difficult. Still, it
Yeah.
hasn't really changed. Like, who Magrat is to him is not somebody that he has a ton of respect for. I think in a very
Yeah.
real sense.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a role that Magrat plays that's very favorable.
Mhm. Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of weird because he seems to be stuck on the idea of there being a young, sort of younger witch as being part of the group, but it took him a really long time to figure out who that young witch should be.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I think he wanted to make somebody that, like,
'Cause he had so many like
I'm sorry. I think he was thinking about his daughter a lot and what he
Yeah.
wanted to say and communicate and show to his daughter. Like every time I see
Well,
one of these, I see some reference to this. It's just it doesn't work, and I don't think Magrat is all of that, but I think a lot of the replacements are.
mhm.
yeah.
And he doesn't get
Because
it right
first
until
we
Tiffany
had
Aching.
yeah.
10
Tiffany
trivia points if you can remember the
Aching
first
is
girl's
where
name.
I cannot remember the first girl's name. Uh, the thing I'd say that
Esk?
makes the Tiffany Aching books different is that Tiffany Aching is the main character. Her actions control the storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Mulch earned 10 trivia points by correctly naming Esk. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think, yes, making them the main character is a huge step towards that. And it's part of the disappointment of this book, which is that it felt like it was setting up for Perdita to be the main character, or at least a much more impactful character than she was. I think that's what we keep referencing.
least
Yeah.
a main character.
Yeah. I mean, in the truly Pratchettian sense, a main character, and she is, but she is denied agency, and
Yeah.
this is the problem. She's not interesting if she's denied agency throughout the entire story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. This is one of those books. This is one of those Terry Pratchett books where I'm like, there's not actually that much interesting to say. I think that we could discuss a lot
Mhm.
about the about Walter Plinge. You know, we could talk about Walter Plinge and the depiction of intellectually disabled people. Though that's a topic that well,
Feels
honestly, we could
wildly
do an entire university
underqualified
class
to handle.
and still not be prepared for. Um
Mhm.
uh and you know, and yeah, we're just not prepared to handle that. And it's a very complicated thing. I mean, there was a lot of points in this book where I felt like, eesh, but not enough to really deeply upset me. But that might be
Mhm.
my own emotions rather than a reality.
Yeah. I'd say I was deeply upset by this book. It really the emotional buildup of Agnes's story and then not a satisfying ending for her, or like even any like I don't know, the last scene, like the way Granny Weatherwax, I didn't mind how Granny Weatherwax handled the situation, but I still was pissed off that like the way they concluded it and like the way it felt really weird to me, like her coming back and then like the whole like I've
There's a
taken up
way it
exercise thing,
could have
and
been
like
satisfying.
yeah,
Wait, let's let Mulch
It
finish.
could have. Oh, sorry.
but just like the whole I'm taking up like I took up exercising thing. Like, do you mean that you had to walk like thousands of miles to get home because you couldn't take the coach? Like, what is that about? Like, what character development are we getting from this? Like, it just feels weird.
I mean, I think the
And
character development is supposed to be that being fat is bad and that you should exercise.
well, yeah, that's what I'm asking. Is that because that pisses me off. Um,
Yeah, and it's a relatively rare thing in his book that he gets like really fat phobic. But I felt
yeah,
like this book, it was really feeling it.
yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah. It
and
will note that it stopped somewhat like at the midpoint, but I remember something that really bugged me about the early parts is like every time Agnes appeared, like entire text or description would just around her would just be fat jokes,
yeah,
like within the text itself.
And
no,
her,
that
yeah, her descriptions are unusual for him. Like usually he does not spend a lot of time describing what a person actually looks like. It's something that I rather like about his books. He
Yeah.
doesn't spend a huge amount of time really discussing somebody's body unless he's horny, or apparently unless you're a fat girl.
yeah,
Yeah. Like, so weird to have her bring up, hey, it kind of bothers me that like my weight kind of like shapes how people like completely overshadows anybody's in how anybody interacts with me to the point where that like all anybody registers about me is my fatness and like the bland descriptions, the bland euphemisms used around fatness, like great personality or great hair or whatever. Basically like things people say when they are uncomfortable with how fat you are. Like, don't want to say that.
yeah, yeah,
All of
and
the
I
text description around her is comments around her weight.
Yeah,
yeah, and
and there was a way to reject those things. And I think that he starts to do it at points and then totally bucks the fuck out. And it just
yeah,
makes this book really tough on that point.
yeah,
And the thing that frustrates me is that her leaving the opera could have been done in a way that was satisfying.
Yes.
Like,
She could have gone apeshit.
they'd had her yeah, if they'd had her, like, go, "You know what? Fuck you all."
Yes.
Yeah,
Instead,
but
she
it's just
Best
mopes.
off-screen.
singing of anybody in this opera, but instead she's just kind of pushed out
I mean, she
or
just like
just gives
randomly
up, and that's
decides to
very
leave.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really don't like
Off-screen.
that.
Yeah.
Off screen, she has her moment of like, I'm gonna dip. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've had my adventures. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go back home to my destiny now, or whatever the fuck. Like that sucks. It sucks so
Yeah.
much.
I kind of feel like I feel like she shouldn't have gone home. I wish she'd, like, decided to become, like, a witch in the city or whatever, because, like
Because we're shown witches in the city, and they're having a dope fucking time.
yeah,
Yes, I
like,
would have liked that.
there are it feels like she's defeated,
Yeah.
and that's really frustrating.
Yes.
Yeah. I also I do like going back to like a point before it's very frustrating I think her emotional world around people, the way people treat her and how she's seen is very intelligently written. And
Yeah.
her emotional world is very, very compelling and very, very anger inducing, because it feels very realistic. But then the text around her, especially in the beginning, is actively fat phobic, even though it's
Yeah.
doing such a good job of displaying her emotional world and how this affects her. And
I got whiplash from that, like,
yeah,
Yeah.
reading
yeah.
her descriptions of how she feels about how people treat her, and then reading the text that is just like a fat joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
And
very
and let's be
annoying.
clear for the listener that we're not only talking about the jokes that other characters make, because that's fine, but often the actual descriptions of her are insults to her.
Like, descriptions of her turning around, or
Yes. The way
um,
she moves through the world and interacts with things not written by other characters, but by Terry Pratchett himself, are deeply insulting. And those are the biggest
yeah,
problem. Fat jokes by
yeah,
actual characters while discussing how somebody feels about their body? Yeah, okay. This fucking shit? I don't know. Don't know about
yeah.
that,
It
Chief.
bugged me a lot, especially since, again, it is like in the beginning. It was like every time Agnes showed up,
Oh yeah, no,
and
I
any
thought
time she did something, it was a description of her weight.
no, until they cut that out, I thought I was gonna hate this book. I'm gonna be real. Like I really
It was not good. And it is such a shame.
um,
Very mixed reviews on this book.
very mixed reviews. I
Yeah,
really I'm gonna look at my
but
list
I'll
and
say, like,
see.
I I gotta say, this one did not upset me as much as, like, Lords and Ladies did. Um, like,
Lords and Ladies was half a year ago, maybe literally. What was your complaint about Lords and Ladies again?
I really did not like the stuff with Magrat.
Yeah.
Did I agree
Or,
with
like,
you?
uh, you sort of did, but it didn't bother you as much.
That makes sense. Yeah, I remember.
Magrat seizing her own destiny and, like, doing stuff, but I really didn't like how, like, Granny Weatherwax did something that was, like, wildly out of line, that was
Oh,
completely
oh yeah.
in violation of Magrat's boundaries, and it
Yes.
kind of ends with going, "Yeah, but what you gonna do with it about it?" Like,
Yes.
just like going just like, "Yeah, you gotta accept that." And I was like,
Yes.
"The fuck? No, you don't."
Yes, I
Yeah.
recall. I also did
Like,
not
that
like this,
really
but
pissed me off.
not nearly. I didn't dislike it nearly as much as you did. It really upset you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of, we've talked a lot about the fat jokes and the way that, like, Agnes is kind of treated narratively in this story.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when you read Agnes's inner thoughts, it still feels, like, respectful. Like, he thinks of her as being like intelligent and competent.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
kind of feels like maybe Terry Pratchett doesn't respect Magrat at all, and that makes her hard to respect.
Yes. 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 It is
I
one
think that just
of
makes
those things.
Agnes books like inherently less stressful to me.
Yeah,
Virtue,
and that makes sense. I mean, he really doesn't like he really feels like he has no respect for Magrat. Like he's just totally dissing on like this kind of hippie girl archetype. Um Anytime that she's on screen.
yeah. I mean, the thing is, Magrat is never right about anything. Even when
Even
she
when she
succeeds
is
at something, she is like
like,
not right.
yeah.
Yes.
And the thing is, there's the dissonance of like she's totally right, but the book does not treat it like she is.
A lot of the stuff she asks for is very reasonable. But I just like reading about Agnes way more than I like reading about Magrat.
Yeah. No. I think I do too,
Do
despite my frustrations.
do we have yeah. I anything to not be reading Magrat. Anything to be not reading Magrat, if I'm being honest. I can't. When Magrat and any of the other witches are together, I do get very upset. Um
Still, like, I still gotta say, Weird Sisters is better than Maskerade.
Weird Sisters is good, but like that was kind of like it wasn't that bad. Like the other books with Megret are worse than Weird Sisters.
Yeah, the other books yeah, like Weird Sisters is like nicer to Magrat than either Witches Abroad or Birds and Ladies.
Yeah.
I think this is such a middle of the road book on this list. I'm looking at the list and I'm like, yeah, right in the fucking middle.
Yeah, I think it's right above Witches Abroad for me.
So that
Oh
would
wait,
be
no, because
I
Lords. No, I'm missing reading the list. Let me see.
I
Um,
I'm kind of wishing we had put soul music above Lords and Ladies.
on my personal list. I did, so don't worry.
Yeah.
I've got the
And the weird
definitive
thing is
list right
I'm the
here.
one
It's
who,
mine.
like, I'm pretty sure I'm the one who caused Lords and Ladies to be higher than soul music, and I'm like regretting that in retrospect.
Yes, you are the person who cares about the list the most, so most of the time we'll put it kind of where you want, unless we really disagree with you.
Yeah.
Like I think we won the battle on what was it that we won the battle on? Oh, equal rights going above Color of Magic. I think was what it was.
yeah.
Um
Um,
Oh, those early days, really bad fucking
yeah.
books.
See, because I think I like Masquerade more than Lords and Ladies, but less than soul music. Uh
well,
Man,
let's change it. Let's.
I mean, yeah, this is a fake thing that doesn't matter, so we can move whatever we want all the time. As far as I'm fucking
yeah.
concerned.
Yeah, because I agree with that. Like, yeah, let's switch.
So we're
Make
switching Lords and Ladies and moving pictures
So, Lords and Ladies and
or
soul
soul music.
music.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so that puts on our group list. Soul music is now at number 6, and Lords and Ladies is now number 7 for those playing along at home, which you should not be doing. It's a stupid, stupid task. There are 41 books in this series, and it's going to take us 3 years to make this list. So, do not do this.
I'm rooting for Masquerade to be like beneath soul music and above Lords and Ladies.
Moving pictures is so low on our group list that it actually makes me feel sad. Um,
Just don't care about any of the characters in moving pictures except for the doggo, who I think is better inside of the guards books. So
He's better inside the guards books. I agree with that.
Mhm.
yeah, so I think
Um,
that's like the biggest mark against moving pictures.
okay,
Yeah,
so
Moving Pictures was very funny, but like no characters.
it was
There
very
just were
funny.
not any characters
Yeah, it
in it.
was just a lot of scenes, which is kind of what I feel about this book.
Mhm.
Uh,
Well,
I
I
like
care
the
deeply
characters
about
in
the
Maskerade.
I
characters.
mean, this is the problem though. The worst mark against this book is that it's got characters you care a lot about, and then it's like kind
What
of
if
fucks them.
fuck them actually?
Yeah, what if actually fuck them? You care about this
Uh,
stupid little. You care about this whiny little cheesemonger? Fuck you. He doesn't matter. You idiot! I tricked you to listening to this guy for an hour. You fucking fool. He doesn't need to be in this book. Yeah, it feels good. I feel good about it. Hey, the longer we talk about this book, the lower on my list it's going. So where do we want to put it? Can we do? So are we below Lords of Ladies and above Moving Pictures? So number.
I kind
Wait,
of want to put it above Lords and Ladies.
You want to put it above Lords and Ladies? You really dislike Lords and Ladies?
Yeah. Well, I don't. I like Lords and Ladies. It just like upset me in a way that Maskerade did not.
I'd say it was a more enjoyable read for sure than Lords and Ladies.
I do think it was more enjoyable.
It's probably not as good of a book, but I'm still probably gonna
The
put it
story
above.
is not as good, but if you were to ask me, hey, right now, would you rather reread Lords and Ladies or Maskerade? I'd be like Maskerade immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I do prefer the actual story of Lords and Ladies if I remember correctly. I mean, that I can remember
Yeah.
any part of the actual story of Lords and Ladies that is not upsetting to me. Like this book, as you started by saying, is just fucking slipping out of your brain. Its story is so weak that, you know, it really falters for me. It really falters in what I think makes a really good Terry Pratchett book, where he gets that orchestra to come together just right.
Yeah.
So for me, this is underneath Lords and Ladies.
What do you think, Mulch?
Well,
'Cause-
it really comes down to like the last third of Lords and Ladies was great. And like if the whole book had been like that, I'd say for sure Lords and Ladies above Masquerade, but I found Lords and Ladies the first 2/3 of it extremely boring. So for my list, Masquerade is above Lords and Ladies.
All right,
Just because it bored me so much.
all right. That puts Masquerade in our 7th position on our group list. Jesus fucking Christ! There's so many of these goddamn books. I love them all.
We're
really
both
do.
we're both in like consensus that Soul Music is better than Masquerade.
Oh, clearly.
We're all in consensus. Yeah.
Yes. I think it's always harder to rate these books against ones in the same series. It's very difficult because, in many ways, every time he writes a new book, he's just rewriting one of the ones he did earlier. But it's very easy for me to put almost, everything there. I do love seeing that my personal list is getting further and further and further from our group list. Except for the
I was so confused because I was looking at my own list and I was like, what is happening here? But no, now I found both the lists now.
Except the fact to say that Small Gods, fucking banger book, y'all. That's just an absolute baller book. We are gonna get to Going Postal or some shit, and I'm not going to be normal. But
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited for Going Postal.
You think about Going Postal all the time.
Going Postal informs everything I do in my entire life.
I am very excited for Feet of Clay, which is
yes. Oh my god!
I
yes.
love that one.
I had to. I nearly started Feet of Clay because For the listener, we're trying to release lots of episodes right now so that we can do Hogfather on Christmas in 20 days.
Yeah.
And not actually
On
on
Christmas.
not on
I
Christmas
was
Day.
just going to say, like, not on Christmas Day.
We all have families and loved ones, but you know, like
Okay,
near.
but if we do it like a day or two before, then I can put it out exactly on Christmas, which would be fun.
Unfortunately, I am hanging with my family on the 23rd and the 24th, and
Okay.
not actually doing Christmas with them on Christmas Day. So that will not be possible.
I
We
kind of
can
don't
release
know
it.
what my family stuff is so weird right now that I actually have no idea what's going on.
I mean, yeah, most critically, we've actually never held to any timetable ever created by man as 3 people.
That is true.
And so I'm shooting for near Christmas, which in my book counts
Closely in the vicinity of Christmas.
basically until January 15th is my goal. If I'm being honest. I'm keeping it reasonable, babes.
No, we can do closer than that. I believe in us.
Hey, we didn't do a stinger for like the start of this episode. And it won't matter. But for the stinger for the Hogfather episode, can we put in the part where I was like, hey, we could do a Hogfather Christmas episode if we line this up right? And y'all were like, there's no way, we're going to finish it way faster. I don't fucking remember what episode that was, but I distinctly remember being told there's no way we'd be doing Hogfather on fucking Christmas. And here we fucking are.
I doubt that
Struggling.
I will have the energy to go through every single episode to look for that part. But I could be wrong because I do enjoy listening to us sometimes.
Hey, if you're one of those wild people who actually listens to us,
like us so much.
You like us so much. It's really very sweet. Hey, if you're one of the people who actually listens to this, which, hey, thank you. Nobody should be listening to this, but thank you. If you could tell us, if you know where I said that, please tell me. I need it. It's vindication. It's everything for me. I'm petty and cruel.
Like, watch you say that, and then we cut it out, and like.
Oh my god! If you cut it out, If you cut it out, I don't listen to the edit, because God.
I doubt I did, but like, if it was like in the middle of one of us blipping out or something, then I might have.
No, I remember both of you telling me there was no way that we would be doing.
Then I probably didn't cut it out.
Hogfather by Christmas. You should not do this to me. Okay. Feet of Clay is the next book. It's actually a really fucking great book. It's a really fucking banger book. This is a book that belongs in the top half of the fucking series. So.
You say top half, it's probably going to be like in the top 2 or 3. I
mean, hey, obviously, Maskerade just made it to the top half. But, fucking clearly. We do not read these, listener, do not read these books in chronological order. It is difficult. It is fucking bad. It is a really not good way.
Don't read all of these books because like it's very educational, but you shouldn't read the first like
realistically you
books
can skip like most of the Rincewinds.
No, we've been stuck in we've been stuck. Well, true, but
I like the Light Fantastic.
We know you do.
I think we've been stuck in Discworld land for so long now that we've forgotten that these are actually so much better than other books. I think that there is absolutely merit to reading every Discworld book, but you should not read every Discworld book in chronological order.
Okay, I feel like you're forgetting both Interesting Times and Sorcery, which is wild because we just read Interesting Times.
No, I'm looking at them. Very, very... Yeah, hey, listen. Bottom of the barrel fucking books. But I will say that in between our episodes, I'm reading other books still. And other books, not very good is the thing. Is they're not written very well. Yeah, sorry, all writers, but it's really hard to be a writer.
I've been reading like a few other books.
Yeah, we are going to get you to read Gideon the Ninth at some point.
I'm working. Do you know how many fucking books I read? Shout out
God.
to a recent
Clearly too many, since so many of them are bad.
speaking of books that are written badly. This is the platform I have. Hey, fucking Robert Wright, who wrote Why Buddhism is True. Fuck you. Fuck you. You wrote a bad book, man. Fuck you. New York Times
that was-
number 4 bestseller. Why Buddhism is True by Robert Wright.
Why
Fuck
did you read that?
Because I like books. I like
and you
learning.
like religion.
I like religion. I like learning. I like lots
now,
of things. I've read it as
I'm
part of a book
reading,
club.
Bold, Daring, Shocking, True, A History of Exploitation Films, and it kind of feels like that was probably like a more valuable use of time.
I mean, I didn't
like,
finish Why
just
Buddhism is
throwing
True.
that
I made it about 2/3 of the way through, and I was
out
like,
there.
I can't. I'm gonna fucking kill this guy.
Yeah.
That is fair.
Yeah, I don't read books anymore, so the only other thing other than Discworld I'm reading is the Locked Tomb series that is no longer a trilogy. And that is good. There's
Grateful
major
it's no
structure
longer a
problems.
trilogy. I want it to go on forever.
Yeah, I find
Careful
the
what
first
you
book,
wish for.
like, I think there are major structure problems in the first book, but it is so enjoyable and I love the characters so much. And like and the second book I love the structure of. A lot of people don't like the second book as much, but I love the structure so much.
Yeah, I think
Really,
it's all about what you value
based
in a
off
book.
of like my Tumblr timeline, I kind of got the impression that like people were really into it.
Oh, you
Yeah,
should
a lot of
never
people are
ever
really into it.
trust a
but,
Tumblr timeline.
Yeah, but I do know other people who have read this series, and like my mom quit at the second book.
Wow,
Yeah, she got too confused.
your mom is weak.
She got too confused.
That's
Okay.
really fucking funny. Your mom is weak.
Uh, I
With
put it.
reading like physically reading fiction, but oddly enough, I found that I can like read nonfiction pretty easily.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you
That's
you
the
like
exact opposite of me.
you like nonfiction. You've always been a person who likes nonfiction.
Yeah, but I also like novels and fiction, but for some reason, like it's hard for me to like physically read it. Like, I have to listen to it in audio form.
Huh. That's interesting.
Oh, hey, fuck. There is one thing that we could have talked about in this book that we didn't talk about. Let's do it very, very quickly. We listened to the Indira Varma new recording. Of
Not. I listened to like the old one.
I listened to the Indira Varma new recording. I believe Mulch switched halfway through to the old one.
I switched I switched back and forth a few times, but I mostly listen to the new one just because I can play it when I'm driving, which I can't with the old one.
Great.
Um,
Indira Varma really struggles to do an old lady voice.
yes,
Not
her
very.
Nanny Ogg voice was not great,
It was bad.
especially her Nanny Ogg voice.
It was. She really struggles to sound old at all. Which I think Nanny Ogg is a better character when she's older. I think the older you make her, the better she is as a character. She's like the only old lady in all books who gets to be horny as fuck. So I felt she really struggled with that.
She's so horny.
She's so horny. She's so horny. And I love that for her. I love that for her in every way.
I think the hornier she is, the better the book.
An interesting metric. Why don't you go back and start ranking horniness? Nanny Ogg horniness for all the witches books. That's your special mission. Your mission, should you choose to accept it. Otherwise though, I really liked Indira Varma's recording. Please, I hope I'm saying the right name. If I'm not saying the right name, nobody correct me. I think she did great with all the rest of the characters. I liked her flow a lot. Is she as good as Nigel Planer? That remains to be seen for me personally. It's a high bar. I think that her range in many ways is better than his. And I think that she thinks a lot more about how pleasant it is to listen to any individual character, which I would say he does not. He actively eschews listenability sometimes. Um, Sometimes he creates a character with such a grating, painful voice that I actually need to stop listening to it for a while, regularly. um, but you know, it's choices. I'm sure there are going to be some people who love having a character that just fucking makes you want to rip your goddamn ears off. Um,
I listened to the old Nigel Planer one because I already owned it and I did not want to spend money. I did not have that experience of wanting to rip my ears off.
So I didn't listen to Nigel Planer's for this one, but for the last Witches books, and this is part of why I did not listen to the Nigel Planer version at all. For the last Witches book, he gave a tooth whistle to Nanny Ogg. That fucking tooth whistle, man, was so awful that I think it severely impacted, actually, my review of Lords and Ladies. Uh, um, so, you know, it's true that I think that she would have a tooth whistle, and I think that she would have kind of an annoying voice. I do. I truly believe that was the right character choice. But it's a fucking... I have to listen to you for 9 hours, sir. Okay, that's the final part of my review of this book. Indira Varma, doing a good job. Can't be old. Sorry. You're not very good at being old. Maybe they should hire an old lady to do it. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that would probably slap.
That would probably fucking slap. If we could get an old person doing any of these books, it would probably be cool. There's a lot of old people in Terry Pratchett books.
Yeah.
And I like
True.
old people.
And that becomes more and more the case the later in the series you get.
Yeah, the older he is, the older the characters are. Okay. Do we have anything else? Anything left in the fucking tank? Except a little sugar?
Next up, as we've said, is Feet of Clay, which is fucking bomb. Just
So good.
one of the best ones.
Yeah, guys. Oh, if you are listening to this and you somehow haven't read these books, please, sweet God, read Feet of Clay. Just a fucking absolute banger of a book. I mean, really one of the best
good.
novels ever written, in my opinion, especially fiction novels.
I love it.
It's so good. I'm really excited. I've also learned since the last time I encountered Feet of Clay, I've learned so much more about golems. And I'm really excited.
I'm excited for the hot golem facts.
I'm trying so hard to be normal all the time. Anyways, I'm good. Let's end this episode. Good night.
Yeah.
Good night, listener.
I do.
Night.
My last note is
yes.
that I started painting my nails when we started recording. I am a little over halfway through this whole time. I've been painting them this whole time.
Is this like halfway through on the first layer?
No. I have a full layers on one hand, and I'm doing one layer on the second hand.
Okay, well that's a normal amount of time then.
Now. Well, is it a normal amount of time when I have a drying lamp that can dry each layer in 30 to 60 seconds?
Oh, no. You're fucked up. You're right. You're broken.
Yeah.
Do you have shaky hands?
You paint. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. You're a painter.
I am a painter. My nails end up looking good. I just you don't know how much time I used to
painting on a canvas and painting on yourself.
I do have
There's
to
definitely a difference.
My hands are shaking all the time, so I do have to prop them to stabilize them, but It's just funny to me that I'm not through my nails despite the vast amount of time we've been talking about Maskerade.
True. Come paint my
Oh,
nails. All right. Goodbye, listener.
right.
Goodbye. Someone find that
Bye,
Hogfather
listeners.
thing for me. Someone find that Hogfather thing. Call to action. Call to action at the end of the video. Please. I need vindication. I'm cruel.